Once upon a time, in a bustling city filled with noise and hurry, there lived a man named Marcus. Marcus was not so different from you or me. He had a job that demanded much of his time, a family that relied on him, and dreams that seemed always just out of reach. Every morning he woke to the sound of his alarm, a harsh reminder that another day of challenges lay ahead. The traffic was slow, his boss was impatient, and the bills never stopped coming. Stress was his constant companion, a shadow that followed him everywhere. One evening, as Marcus sat alone in his small apartment, exhausted and overwhelmed, he remembered something his grandfather had told him long ago. The Stoics knew how to face life's storms without drowning. At the time, Marcus had dismissed it as old-fashioned wisdom, but now, desperate for relief, he decided to learn more. That night, he picked up a book on Stoic philosophy and began to read. The first lesson he encountered was simple but powerful. Some things are in our control and some are not. The Stoics taught that stress often comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. The weather, other people's actions, the past, the future. The key, they said, was to focus only on what we can influence, our own thoughts, choices, and actions. Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. How much of his stress came from things outside his power? The traffic, his boss's moods, the economy, these were not his to command. But his reaction to them? That was his alone. The next day, Marcus resolved to test this idea. When the traffic crawled, instead of clenching the steering wheel and cursing, he accepted it. He could not make the cars move faster, but he could control his frustration. He turned on peaceful music and used the time to think. When his boss snapped at him unfairly, Marcus paused. He could not change his boss's temper, but he could choose not to take the words personally. He nodded, did his work, and let the anger pass like a cloud. Over time, Marcus discovered another Stoic tool: the practice of negative visualization. The Stoics advised imagining the worst that could happen, not to dwell in fear, but to prepare the mind. One night, Marcus sat and imagined losing his job. At first, the thought filled him with panic. But as he continued, he asked himself, would I survive? Would I find another way? The answer was yes. He had skills, he had family, he had resilience. By facing his fears head-on, they lost their power over him. The next morning, the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. But life, as always, had more tests in store. One afternoon, Marcus received news that his mother had fallen ill. The doctors were uncertain, and fear gripped his heart. This was no traffic jam or rude boss. This was real pain. He rushed to her side, his mind racing. Then he remembered the Stoic teaching. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. He could not control his mother's illness, but he could control how he faced it. He sat by her bed, holding her hand, offering quiet strength instead of panic. He focused on what he could do: comfort her, listen to the doctors, be present. The situation was hard, but his mind was steady. Weeks passed, and Marcus's mother slowly recovered. Through it all, he had not let stress break him. He had not pretended the difficulties didn't exist, but he had refused to let them rule him. One evening, as he walked home under a sky full of stars, he realized something profound. Stoicism had not given him a life without problems. It had given him a way to face them with courage and clarity. From that day on, Marcus lived differently. When stress came knocking, he greeted it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. He asked, "Is this within my control?" If yes, he acted. If no, he let go. He practiced gratitude for what he had, knowing that nothing was permanent. And most importantly, he remembered that he was not alone in this struggle. The Stoics, centuries ago, had walked this path before him. And so, dear listener, the next time stress tightens its grip on you, remember Marcus. Remember the Stoic response. Focus on what you can change, Accept what you cannot, and face each challenge with a calm mind. The storms of life will never cease, but you can learn to sail through them. That is the power of Stoicism. That is the path to peace. The end.